Hi everyone, my name's Dahlia. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in December. January. It's January. Still trying to figure out that whole New Year's thing. So this month I read a lot of books, I think, in my opinion. I read 9 books, which is more than average, I think, and I think I read like an interesting mix of books. I read a lot of books that I've already read before, so like rereads, and then I read like 4 new books that I haven't read before, and so I'm going to split this video up in 2 parts. The first part in which I talk about all my rereads, and the second part in which I talk about the 4 new books that I've read this month. Yeah. So the first 2 books that I read in December were Eon and Iona by Allison Goodman. My covers and my editions don't match for nothing, but that's fine. These books are so good. If you like the story of Mulan, I think you would really love these books. This is a duology, and it takes place in this high fantasy land inspired by, I think, Chinese and Japanese culture, and it's really cool. This one follows a 12-year-old boy named Eon, and he's training to become a Dragonite apprentice. He's competing against other 12-year-old boys to become the Dragonite apprentice, and so that at the choosing ceremony, the rat dragon, because it goes by like the 12 celestial animals, like dragon, rabbit, all those. So this year is the year of the rat. So they want to become the Rat Dragonite apprentice, and Eon has a secret. Eon is actually 16-year-old Iona, and she has to pretend she's a boy, because if this society finds out that she's a female training to become a Dragonite, she will get herself killed because that's illegal. Females cannot become Dragonites. They're not supposed to have Dragonite powers, and so yeah, she has to handle that and stuff. And I really love these 2 books because it really I don't know, gender comes into play into these books, and there's a character, her name's Lady Della, she's transgender, and she's so great, she's kick butt. And then Eon, she has the habits of a boy. She's had to play the part of a boy her entire life, and maybe you can tell by this cover, things go down, she has to I don't know, it's kind of breaking the barriers between genders, because it's not just about the 2 binary genders, male and female. There's a lot of overlapping complicated things going on there, and I think these books do a great job at breaking those barriers and giving us a strong main lead. There's a lot of action, there's a romantic storyline, but it's not the main focus either, and it's just so cool. And then there's dragons, obviously, so that's really cool too. So I gave these books 5 stars. I loved them so much, and it was so much fun rereading them. And then the next 2 books rereads that I did were Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson and The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. These are the first 2 books in his Mistborn trilogy, and again, they're so good. I did a video review of Mistborn. I could leave a link to that below, and I really want to do a video review on The Well of Ascension. I finished it a while ago, but I haven't had the time to sit down and film a review, because there's a lot of things to talk about. These books are just so good. It takes place in a high fantasy world. Well, at least this one takes place in a high fantasy world that's ruled by a mortal figure known as the Lord Ruler. He's very oppressive, and a group of thieves who have these powers that they're not supposed to have, they get together and plot to overthrow the final empire, and it's just such a good book. The magic system is complex and unique, and I just love it so much. And Vin, the main character, is another strong female character, and I just love her. She's non-traditionally feminine. She's part of the underground, but she also learns to just accept herself for who she is. She's just I don't know, I just love her, and yeah, I just love these books too. And then the next 2 rereads were Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Believe it or not, I had to read these books for school because I'm taking a class called Race, Class, and Wizardry. It's a weekend intensive course here at my school, but that's fine. We meet once a month throughout the semester. And so on our first weekend, we focused on the first 2 books of the series, and my gosh, that class is so good. For example, we talk about the social hierarchy in the wizarding world. Why do wizards, think themselves higher over other magical creatures? Here we talk about the concept of servitude and slavery with the house elves and all that. There's just a lot of things to talk about. We talk about the importance of setting in these books. We talk about gender roles of some characters, and just everything. And it's just such a great class, and it's so interesting looking at Harry Potter from more of an academic lens, more rather than just for enjoyment. And I I've been enjoying reading these with a critical eye. You would think that it would ruin the story, but it doesn't. It's actually made me grow to love the story more because it's just more complex than you give it credit for. And yeah, I love these books, and they're so fun to reread. Then the next 4 books are sorry. The next 4 books are books that I have just read for the first time this month. So the first is The Red Tent by Anita Diamant. And this is kind of a reimagining of one of the stories in the Bible in Genesis. It follows a character named Dinah who makes a brief appearance in the Bible. And disclaimer, I'm not super religious, but I did take a Bible as literature class here at my school, and it just I just loved reading the Bible as literature and through this academic lens again. And I loved the stories in it. It was so interesting. There's so many complexities to the Bible. I think you could read this story as a religious text, but just for me, it didn't read that way. It read more as a historical fiction. So that's how I read it as. But Dinah is the daughter of Jacob and Leah. Jacob is the son of Isaac, and Isaac was the one who was almost killed by his father because God told him to kill his son until an angel stopped him. So I don't know if you know that story or not, but Jacob's his son. And so this story focuses on Jacob's family. And but the interesting part about this book is that it focuses on the women of this society and culture, because in the Bible, I don't know if you've read the Bible or not, maybe if you are religious or if you've read it again as literature, you may have noticed that it's a very male dominated text. And in here it just focuses on the women. And the Red Tent, I think, as I understood it, is a place where women congregate while they're on their menstrual cycle. So that is very interesting. And it's just focuses on all these I don't know, you just don't get this glimpse of women when they're in the Bible. They're just very minor secondary characters, and here they're given more complexity. They have personalities. Jacob had 4 wives in this book, which I guess was the norm back in the day, but each of them had their own personality. One thing I didn't like about that was that the 4 wives each had a box around their personality. They had for example, Leah was big and strong, and she was very fertile and was able to produce a lot of babies. Rachel was very beautiful, but she had trouble conceiving babies. And then there's another one who she was very meek and quiet, but she was also very observant. So they each had complex personalities, but at the same time they're very flat. So I don't know, that was kind of a weird thing. But you still got to see another side of them that you don't get to see in the Bible and the story. And so yeah, it was just a really interesting story to read, and I've never read anything like this before. So if this sounds like something you'd be interested in, whether you're religious or not, I'm not again, but it reads great as a historical fiction text. And yeah, it was just a good read. And so yeah, that was interesting. Then the next book that I read in January was Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. This is the third book of her Daughter and Smoke and Bone trilogy, and so it's the final book. And I can't really talk much about it without giving away spoilers. Just know that I think it was a good ending for a series. There's like a lot of like very tense moments, I would say. Um, and I really liked how it ended. Like, it didn't end like, oh, like everything's better now and everything's gonna be okay. Like, there's still like a certain like level of uncertainty, but like at the same time you just have to have like hope and faith in the characters. Like, a big theme in these books is like the concept of having hope, because the main character is Karu, and in one of the Chimera languages in this book, Karu means hope. And so, yeah, in the end, like, we kind of are left with like, oh my gosh, is everything gonna be okay? Like, it's not like wrapped around like, pretty put a bow on it kind of thing. Like, there's that level of uncertainty, but like, most of the drama has passed and stuff. So the reader's left needing to feel hope. And so I really liked that. I thought it was really interesting. And yeah, this series overall was like really good. I loved it. It's about like, it's centered around a war between the Chimera and the Seraphim, and the Seraphim are like the angels and the Chimera like the beasts. And this war has been raging on for 1,000 years. And the book follows a girl named Karu, who in the first book we learned that she had fallen in love with an angel, which is like, obviously a huge crime, like Romeo and Juliet, except that crime had like huge repercussions. And so yeah, we just follow their story and stuff, and it's really interesting, so I love that. Yeah. And then the next two books I had to read for my survey of American literature course. And so the first one that I read for that course was Daisy Miller by Henry James. And this book is tiny, didn't take me long to read. Honestly, I didn't like it that much. It was really boring. Like, basically it's about this guy named Wolfborn. Wolfborn, is that his name? Oh, Winterborn. Sorry. Winterborn. And he meets this girl, and her name's Daisy Miller, as you can tell. And basically he's trying to figure out her personality, because they're in Europe, but they're from America. And in Europe, there's like these social standards for like mannerisms and stuff. And Daisy Miller's like breaking all of them. Like, she's being very openly flirty. She's walking around with guys without an escort. And so he's basically trying to figure out like what's up with this girl. He's trying to like put her in like a box. Like, is she like doing this on purpose, or is she just ignorant? And like, it's just like so annoying. And like, girls are obviously more complicated than that. And yeah, I didn't like that book. Like, that was like the entire book. He was just trying to analyze Daisy Miller, and then like she dies in the end. Like, sorry for the spoiler, but like whatever. Like, oh my god, it was just frustrating. Yeah, and then the next book I read was Puddington Wilson by Mark Twain. If you've heard of Mark Twain, he's very famous. He wrote Huckleberry Finn and The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. I've only read Huckleberry Finn by him before this, and I actually like Puddington Wilson a lot more. It's more interesting, also a lot smaller. It takes place in this small town. It's a fictional Missouri frontier town on the banks of the Mississippi River, 19th century, pre-antebellum period. Antebellum period? Antebellum is like before Civil War, right? Because there's still like slavery in this war. So yeah, antebellum period. And basically this story follows, well, Puddington Wilson is basically like, he went to law school and stuff, so he's like trying to be a lawyer, but like he has this fatal remark when he enters his town, and people judge him automatically. They're like, oh, he's weird and stuff. So that's why he's given the nickname Puddington Wilson, and so now no one takes him seriously. And meanwhile, there is this slave woman, her name's Roxana, and so she doesn't actually, she looks like a white person basically, but because of that one drop rule, like, that stupid one drop rule, she had like an African American like ancestor, and so that's what made her a slave. Like, oh, she's like 132, I don't know how to say that fraction, part like, black, and so that's what made her a slave. And yeah, like, okay, so that's history, and it's screwed up, but that's like reality, like that's what happened. And so Roxana has a child, and whose name is Chambers, and her master had just had a baby whose name was Tom, I want to say. Yeah, Tom. And the babies are the same age, and they look exactly the same in terms of like skin color. Okay, the dad can't even tell them apart, which is like sad. Like, that's your own son. Like, you really don't know which one is yours. But Roxana uses this to her advantage, because if you don't know, for slavery, the child, if he's born to a slave woman, or if he or she is born to a slave woman, that means he is born a slave, because it has to follow the condition of the mother. And Roxana knows this, and she doesn't want her baby to grow up and be a slave. And so, since her master can't tell the babies apart, she makes a switch. And obviously, like, it's very tense and very like scary, but she does it because obviously as a mother, she wants her best for her child. And it's just a very interesting book. It has like very interesting social commentary of the time, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was really sad too, though. Like, I finished it last night, and I was like, what the hell? Like, oh my god. But yeah, that was that. And so yeah, those are all the books that I read this month. Again, very interesting mix there. And yeah, so thank you for watching. If you've read any of these books, if you're interested in any of them, feel free to leave your thoughts down below. Otherwise, I hope you have a very good day.